Um, it is now 7:01, and I'm call this Transportation Policy Board meeting to order. And if we get started with some introductions, and Mark, would you like to do that?
Yes. City of Olympia.
Sorry, Danny Madrone here with the City of Olympia.
City of Lacey. I should just switch those on the sheet. So we
Mayor Andy Ryder, I'm the mayor of the City of Lacey and your chair.
and Tumwater
Yeah, Gabby, Tumwater.
and City Rainier
Ron Kemp, City of Rainier.
and Tenino
John O'Callahan representing the great city of Tenino.
and Port of Olympia.
Amy Evans, Port of Olympia. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Washington State Department of Transportation.
Good morning, Guy Sonoy, Olympic Region.
And our business representative, McKeegan Jensen. Oh, you're muted.
There I am. Hi, Jessica Jensen here.
And our business representative, Radcliffe Sinclair.
Good morning. I'm Renee Radcliffe Sinclair, business rep.
And I know that our business representative, David Wasson, will be here shortly. Our emeritus representative.
Good morning, everyone. This is Pete Kamat.
And our community rep, Millar.
Morning, Travis Millar, community representative.
And I'm scanning quickly to see if anyone else joined. I don't believe so, Chair.
Okay.
Oh, I do see David Wasson is on his way in.
Okay, good. With that, do you have any other reports or announcements?
I do. A couple of things I just want to go over quickly. One, I couldn't be more excited. We're not even done with the Martin Way corridor study yet, and we just got word this week that project will be receiving $700,000 in a new state program created by Move Ahead Washington called Connecting Communities. And that fund is going to go right. The funding is going to get us right into implementation. We're going to start designing some of the sidewalk and crossing improvements that are called out in the Martin Way corridor study. Pretty amazing to be getting implementation funding before we're even 100% completed with the work. We are just beyond excited to work with the partners, Intercity Transit, Thurston County, Lacey, and Olympia to start implementing that work. Also want to call out the Port of Olympia is receiving $9.27 million for upgrades to the marine terminal from federal funding that's available. Super excited about that. And Intercity Transit, the Patterson Street grand opening is tomorrow from 2 to 4. So if you can make it, we've all been looking at it on Martin Way, and it's a beautiful facility. So I'm excited to get inside. That's what I've got, Chair. Thank you.
Great. And so before we approve today's agenda, I would like to make one quick recommendation that we flip-flop the two agenda items that we have today, that we get the report out from the Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission update, which Mark will say there's really no new information, but I know there's people here interested in getting an update, and we'll have some public comment here in a second, but I think it makes sense to get that update out of the way before we go into our call for projects reviews and recommendations. Is there concurrence on that?
One thing, Chair, and that'll be a possible action item as well.
Yes, and then we'll have some more discussion around that as well. Can I get a motion to approve that amended agenda?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. We can have some discussion. There's two frames of thought here. Either we have advertised it at a little bit of a later date or later time, but I know we have people ready to go who's looking for an update right now. So since there's really no information, I think we should continue. I think we should approve the amended agenda and get this out of the way. Is there any other discussion? Okay, well, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? And then that motion unanimously carries, and we have approved the amended agenda and consent calendar. Next up is we need to approval of the meeting notes from October 12th.
So moved.
Donald,
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? And that motion unanimously carries as well. Okay, we do have several people who signed up for public comment. The first person I have on my list is Ursula. Can we bring Ursula in? And could you unmute yourself? There you go.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. Can you please?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can only see some of you. I cannot see the public. I cannot see myself. So I feel a little bit like you're hiding me and you are hiding the public from me. So just saying.
Okay,
But
can you start your video?
I do not have a video option because you
Okay.
have me. You have me on a webinar set up. You have every one of us on a webinar set up. So then we
Oh.
don't have that option.
Okay,
I
no problem.
believe that that's true.
we can hear you. Just introduce yourself and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Yes, my name is Ursula Euler, and I hope you can see me okay, that I'm in the frame.
Mhm.
I want to comment and make public comment today to your topic, to our topic really in Thurston County, of the possibility of another mega airport in the Puget region. From my observations, I've observed this process in person since early 2020. The process has been very hard to understand. It's leaving many questions open. Actually, lots of questions need to be asked, and then we also need answers. And we need to have conversations that haven't happened. Outreach has been terrible. With that said, outreach and information has been one-sided, which today I want to give you 2 examples for. At the moment, the WashDOT, CAC, and even the governor and legislators are saying that aviation and flying can become clean by removing carbon, a decarbonization. And the goal here is to do that with so-called alternative aviation fuels. But please be careful and get lots of information, for example, from the International Council on Clean Transportation and even the FAA, because the FAA says, and just recently did at a meeting I attended, that the CO2 emissions of alternative fuels out of the pipeline, out of the motor, are the same as for traditional fuels. Where we are possibly receiving greenhouse gas emission benefits is at the production end. So where we are growing feedstock or gathering materials that can be turned into alternative fuels. But that production is really very, the production today, for example, is 0.2% of the demand. The FAA has a grand challenge goal of 10% by 2030. So just compare that, 0.2% today, 10% in 6, 7, 8 years, going to 100% hopefully by 2050. Those are concepts, they are goals. None of the logistics of the production really have been worked out to any degree to be certain to be able to get there. As a result, I would really like to urge you, and I don't know how much time I have left, I would really urge you to ask those questions and help us as a community have those discussions, and not just about CO2, but also other pollutants, noise, particulate matter, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur oxide. Those are not greenhouse gas pollutions, but those are polluting particles that affect people with their feet on the ground, people breathing it day in, day out, inside and outside. And they have been linked to increased health problems in airport communities, such as heart disease, asthma, respiratory disease, inequities in health, in other words, in a lower ability of learning, lower insurability, and just lower general economic well-being. Please consider that, and let's continue to learn about that.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments here today. Next up, we have Dylan and Laura Orion. Can you please turn on or unmute yourself? There you go.
Hello. Yeah, Laura and I are here this morning. I would agree with Ursula that it seems a little unfair that we're.
Can you please introduce who you are and where you're from, and then please keep comments for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, my wife Laura and I live in Thurston County in the unincorporated area. We're about a half mile from the center of the 6 mile diameter zone that is going to be affected by the proposed site of the Thurston County Airport. I believe it's called the Thurston County South site. And we were broadsided by this. We bought our house about a year ago, moving here from Portland. And we had heard a little bit about this maybe 2 months ago, kind of just a rumor sort of thing that there was a planning commission. And then kind of out of the blue in October, we suddenly realized we were one of 3 sites and seemingly the favorite for this proposal to put a major international airport in a completely, completely normal rural part of Thurston County. We moved here to be rural. We moved here to be out in the country, to have quiet surroundings and to be able to enjoy nature. And so this was a real shock to us. And I think just in general, there's just been a real lack of, like Ursula said, a real lack of outreach. We completely missed the October meeting of the CAC, wherein we could have provided comments to them directly, because they only advertised in 2 very minuscule local publications, which to me suggested that they really didn't want us to know. Otherwise, they would have put it somewhere more important. And so all of us community members have had to organize really rapidly and try to kind of play catch up. That's why we're showing up to these types of meetings where we're probably talking to people who don't necessarily have a lot of pull, since the CAC isn't here. So yeah, it's just been a major disappointment. I think it's just, you'll probably hear from other people, there's just a whole host of reasons why this airport shouldn't be put here and should not be put anywhere. We're taking the position that a new greenfield airport is not needed anywhere in Western Washington, that the CAC should be dissolved, and that it should be taken back to the very initial stages of public outreach to determine whether this is even needed, and to engage the public in a meaningful way right from the very beginning, instead of trying to avoid the public. And without a doubt, the CAC needs to have a more diverse makeup. 60% of the CAC is made up of industry representatives. I believe there's only 2 community representatives, one of whom refuses to even acknowledge that his mind has been affected by community opinions. So it's just a total catastrophe. And from an environmental perspective, from a planning perspective, and I'm sorry to sound so negative, but we really haven't been involved.
We appreciate your comments, and if you want to stay on, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more with the update right after public comment.
We'll be here.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Next, I have Michelle Swanson. You could unmute yourself.
I don't think Michelle wanted to provide public comment.
Okay, and then the last one we have is Jennifer. There you go.
One.
Yep.
Jennifer, yeah, sorry.
Okay, it looks like I'm unmuted now. Okay, hi, I'm Jennifer Colvin. My family owns and operates Colvin Ranch in Tenino. So, I appreciate the comments from the other speakers before me. What I'd like to focus on today, with the Transportation Committee here is thinking about the broader impacts of the construction of an international airport in this rural part of Thurston County. So, I know a lot of times we're focusing on, say, the 3,000 acres that would be required to build the airport itself. But in order to support an international airport of that size, it would need significant major transportation structures. So we would be looking at the need to build major highways, additional roads, other transportation infrastructure, parking lots, distribution centers, warehouses. I mean, the impacts of this would urbanize our entire community, not just the 3,000 acres that would be taken to construct the airport itself. It's not appropriate for our rural community. And the citizens, as you've heard, don't want it. We've already seen the Board of County Commissioners, the Port of Olympia, every mayor in the county speaking out against that, the construction of the airport. And so today, my request to you as the board would be to take action in submitting a letter in opposition to the construction of an airport as well. So thank you so much for your discussion on this topic today and your consideration.
Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate your comments. And do we have the opportunity? Is there anyone else wishing to give public comment that didn't sign up that would like to speak?
Chair, it's my understanding we have somebody in our office that is looking to, and I believe it's Jean Schaefer.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jean Schaefer. My family has lived on our property since 1974, and it is exactly where the proposed airport runway is proposed to go in Thurston County. It is 20 acres on a southwest facing slope with an FSC certified forest, the first one in Washington. I have a 42 by 30 foot productive garden, and I gave a life estate in our place to the Nisqually Indian tribe in 2005. My first husband now passed, and I raised our daughter here. My grandchildren come here to visit us all the time. I have been sinking my life into this place so we have a place to survive, regardless of what is going on in the world. This is no time to plague responsible people with displacement when we are all trying to stay safe from a pandemic, shooters, climate change, vast homelessness, and on the brink of nuclear war with maybe Russia, North Korea, or China. My family and my neighbors are in a panic over this traumatic prospect. I am 71 years old and retired from self-employment on only $603 Social Security. My husband works at Country Green Turf Farm, which is also in the proposed airport circle, so he would lose that income stream. Our modest life savings could not buy a house in today's market. We would have nothing left to live on after trying to get a dwelling. The demand claimed for future air use is not true. People are telecommuting like this and teleconferencing now, eliminating lots of business class travel. The rest of travelers wanting to vacation on the other side of the world could be supporting USA travel destinations. Where transportation needs improving is our I-5 corridor. Build it up in multi-layers. The express lanes going through Seattle are an example of this. This way, no people are displaced from their homes. Traffic clogs the small streets of Yelm, Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater every day from cars detouring off I-5, which is gridlocked during work times and on weekends. And Washington Department of Transportation needs to raise up I-5 in the air where it goes through the Nisqually River Delta. That's going to be under sea level rise in the near future. I am terrified of what this choice is going to do to my family and all the other families in the path of these plans. It is like Putin invading Ukraine. It's not right for them to scare us like this. Thanks for your attention, and thank you for being public servants.
Thank you, Jean. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else wishing to give public comments? Okay, I think that's all. So then let's go into this Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission update.
Sounds
Mark,
good.
and can you let the public know what your interaction has been?
I absolutely will. Yep. So, well, and actually I'll stop sharing real quick while I say, so, we've been following this, since the beginning, honestly, and I'll talk about this in the presentation, after some of their first work where they eliminated Olympia Regional Airport from consideration for, expansion. There was a thought that this was over. It wasn't, because they started looking for a new airport site, a greenfield site. So we've been following this after the September meeting that I'll talk about, where the commission recommended the 3 sites. I reached out to the chair and vice chair, suggesting that as they move forward, it would be good to have some consultation with planners at Thurston Regional Planning Council, because of the things that have been talked about in public comment, incompatible land uses, the transportation infrastructure changes that would be necessary. And just so folks know, at least as of right now, that interaction with the commission has not occurred. So the last bit of information that we have from the commission is I'll talk about this, but October 15th, they had a update due to the legislature where they provided their information on their recommendations. So a little bit of background. The state legislature created the Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission. They call themselves the CAC. I'll probably call them the commission through this. And it started out as 15 members. They're now at 20 some members, and they have the charge from the state to bring the state a recommendation for a single new airport site. You hear the term greenfield throughout this. Greenfield just means new, putting an airport where there currently isn't an airport or that kind of industrial use. And so they owe that recommendation by June 15th of 2023. And the reason that the state cites for convening the commission is that some work done by Puget Sound Regional Council suggests that by 2050, the projection is that we'll have an unmet demand of 27 million annual passengers, MAPS. That's the metric that you'll hear used throughout this, is that million annual passengers. And just for a frame of reference, when SeaTac and Payne Field are completely built out, which they're pretty much there, but there's still a little left, they'll be at 67 million annual passengers. And so the CAC started their work in 2019. They started by looking at existing airports with the potential for expansion. They reached out to the counties and ports in the areas that they were considering. Back in 2020, both the Thurston County and the Port of Olympia voted and provided input to the commission that they were not interested in sponsoring expansion of Olympia Regional Airport. And what you see on the right is the cover of the commission's 2020 update report, and that includes 6 sites with the potential for expansion. Olympia Regional Airport is not one of those sites, and in fact, in that report, it states the reason that it was not considered is because of the county and port opposition to expanding the airport or siting a new airport in Thurston County. So how did we get to the Thurston County site and the 2 Pierce County sites? So most of 2020 and 2021, the commission focused on those existing airports and expanding them. But ultimately, the commission decided that really only Payne Field in Snohomish County has much potential for expansion. And so the attention then turned to identifying greenfield sites, new airport sites. It was not until August of 2022 that we, the public, saw any of those potential sites. The consultant that is assisting Department of Transportation on a separate effort to update their Washington Aviation System Plan. They've been using that same consultant to help with some of this work of the commission, and they identified 10 potential greenfield sites, all in Western Washington, that included 2 sites in Thurston County. And then this same document that you're seeing here, I definitely suggest people take a look at it. It's only 55 pages, and it's the most recent information we have on this. The selection criteria is around the ability to operate the airport, ground access, developmental costs, environmental impacts, and market factors. I'm sure everyone has seen this figure by now. This is the Thurston County Central site. They've drawn, and all of the sites, they've drawn the 6-mile diameter circle. As was pointed out in public comment, they're looking for 3,100 acres within that 6-mile circle for the airport itself. It's important to note that that is bigger than SeaTac is currently, and this has been talked about in the CAC that if SeaTac were built today, it would be required to have more land than it does have. And so yes, this 3,100 acres is more land than what SeaTac currently has for 3 runways, and this site they are looking for 2 runways. So some of what's been mentioned too, some of the information you can only get by watching the commission's meetings. And this is an example of that. This is a page from that report that I talked about, the siting report. But what was discussed in the meeting was to come up with the 3 locations. They used a subset of these evaluation elements. The terrain impact, which is really just is the land properly flat and such to host an airport, cost of property acquisition, impacts on wetlands and streams, impacts on underserved communities, incompatible land uses, the population served, and then the unaccommodated passenger demand. Those were the criteria that they focused on for recommending the 3 sites to go forward. This is another figure that you won't find in that report. I actually took a screen grab of this while I was watching the commission's meetings so that I could present this to people. This is how they narrowed down the 10 sites to 3. And they had looked at a King County site. The legislation that created the commission excluded siting the airport in a county with a population of 3 million or more. That is only King County. Therefore, it's not possible to, under this legislation, they created the commission to site the airport in King County. They eliminated the 2 Skagit County sites as being too far away from the population center and serving. This is a little bit mislabeled. The criteria was unaccommodated passenger demand, but these numbers are actually the projected passengers that site could accommodate. And so they eliminated Skagit for being too far away from the population center and not meeting enough of the need. They're looking for roughly 20 million air passengers. And they eliminated the Lewis County site for the same reason, being too far away from the population center, not meeting enough of the need. They then eliminated the 2 Snohomish County sites. And the reason for that was that they are looking to do some expansion at Payne Field. And so the reasoning was it doesn't make sense to build a new airport in the same county as Payne Field when they're also looking to expand Payne Field. And so that really left the two Pierce County and the two Thurston County. They only carried forward the one Thurston County site, Thurston County Central. And the reason there is it had more potential in terms of the millionaire passengers that it could support. You see that the two Pierce County sites are much closer to the projected need of 20 millionaire passengers. So it is a little unclear at this point why the Thurston County Central site was moved forward. I asked the commission staff about that. What I was told is the discussions they've had is that this figure is based on people that are within a 90-minute drive. But their expectation is that with a new airport, people would choose to drive further to the new airport instead of SeaTac. So they believe that this underrepresents the millionaire passengers that could be served at this site.
What is the 1992 flight plan study that you have?
Yeah, so this is, they also referenced this quite a bit. In 1992, there was a similar study done to look for an airport location. And in that study, there was a site near Black Lake that was identified as a potential site. And in the CAC meetings, they frequently pointed to this study as they looked at a Thurston County site in 1992. And so because of that, they're looking at a Thurston County site again today. That's the significance.
Okay.
So
Excuse me.
Yes.
Did they ever look at what the citizens of this county said in 92? Because remember, it got turned down then. And this is the third iteration since I've been living in Thurston County since 86. And there has never been anybody that I've known that said, oh, we need to have a new airport.
Yeah. So, I mean,
there's tried to do a little bit more with the airport that we have. It's failed.
Yeah.
Let's get through this.
There is a lot of discussion in the commission's meetings. They recognize that people don't want an airport sited in their community. And what the commission has said during their meetings is they have a job that they were charged with doing, which is finding a site for an airport. And so by June 15th of 2023, they will be providing a recommendation for an airport. Both Pierce County and Thurston County have put on record opposition to siting of an airport. So at their September 23rd meeting, this was basically what they passed, which was that they're going to continue looking at adding capacity to Payne Field. They're going to assume that SeaTac executes its sustainable airport master plan. And that's how together that gets them to that 67 million annual passengers. But with that, then they'll be looking for a new airport site. And that's what these, and those are being the two Pierce County and the one in Thurston County. So next steps, they also provided on October 15th, a report to the legislature where they laid out that recommendation. They laid out that they're looking for an airport to serve 20 millionaire passengers annually, and that they have more work to do to look at the flight path, potential flight path, air cargo analysis, environmental factors, transportation access to the site, other infrastructure access to the site, and a rough order of magnitude of the cost estimates, including all the kind of induced costs like transportation. Those are all supposed to be part of this rough order of magnitude cost estimate for development. So as was noted in public comment, Thurston County, Nisqually Indian Tribe, all the cities and town of Bucota, Port of Olympia, and the Thurston Conservation District have all gone on record as opposing airport development in Thurston County. And also, I already mentioned, I reached out to the chair and vice chair about participation, and they assured that we would be consulted as this moves forward. This was talked about with council in October. At their meeting on Friday, they asked that this come back to them at their next meeting in December to consider potentially taking a position on this. And so that's why the chair changed this to an action item, because we will be looking for the Transportation Policy Board to make a recommendation to council in terms of taking a position, not taking a position, whatever TPB decides to do or not do today, in terms of a recommendation to the council for their consideration when they meet in December.
So Mark, can you tell me again what your role is on the
I have
commission?
no role. I have no role.
Are you just there as someone who?
I'm not there
How are you
at
a part
all.
of this
I
stuff?
get to watch on TVW like everybody else.
Okay. And so the question is, as you laid out, every jurisdiction within Thurston County has written a letter against this. So we know where all the jurisdictions are at, including the tribe. The tribe, I had a meeting with the tribe last week, and they are 100% against this. The things that we don't know is exactly what property within that 6 miles they are talking about. We've had some conversations. The largest owner within that circle happens to be Joint Base Lewis McChord federal property, but we don't know for certain that's the property they're looking at or not. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
absolutely correct. What they have said is what the staff have said is their belief is that somewhere within those 6 mile radius circles, there's a 3,100 acre site for the airport. That's what they've said.
Okay. And so
And the other thing I'd note, Chair, is just we do have the call for projects. So hopefully we can get through this fairly quickly.
I totally understand that. Amy, I see your hands up. And then the other thing is as a role of the MPO, has any MPO taken a position, a political position before like this?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay. So the question is I think we need to think as an MPO, we need to think smarter on this. And if Mark, has a possibility of participating through this process, if his organization has taken a formal position, does that actually hurt us more than it helps us? I think that's a question that we need to consider. But Amy, I saw your hand up.
I was just going to ask Mark, practically speaking, this doesn't seem like something that very many jurisdictions would ever support. What happens practically when you have these constrained needs from shipping and air travel? What happens? I mean, do they just pick one and then it gets pushed down the pipe, or how does I can't imagine anyone supporting this.
Yeah,
just given the community outcry.
You're absolutely right, Commissioner, and that's what they have said, that their job is to recommend a single site and the commission, and so that's what they will do. We are a long ways away from anything being constructed. The state hasn't identified funds for this. The federal government hasn't identified funds for this. There's all the local permitting, all the federal permitting. I mean, we are a long ways away from this being a done deal. And yet the way the commission has talked about this is their job is to provide a recommendation for a single site by June 15th, and they will do so. And they realize that will not be a popular recommendation, whatever it is.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a pretty hard position for them to be in. They're getting all the scorn, and it's challenging. Thank you.
Yeah. Pete, and then we'll go with Don, and then we'll talk a little bit more. Pete?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I too was around in the early 90s when the previous study was done, and there certainly was, I can't understate or overstate how much opposition there was. It was, yeah, they packed a school gymnasium with people upset over the proposal at that time. But I do think that this plan while I understand it from an aviation perspective, it would completely frankly, blow up our growth management plan for Thurston County, which is keeping this area rural and concentrating our urban growth in frankly, mostly the northern urban areas. So I think for that reason alone, it's totally inconsistent with everything we've been doing, and probably any correspondence we would want to make sure that that's stated. I do have a specific plan. I'm glad Commissioner Evans is here. I got contacted by some folks saying that the Olympia Airport Master Plan, which is not part of this process, that the port is contemplating an expansion of operations at the airport there. And I guess I would like her to provide just a brief perspective on what is going on at the Olympia Airport right now. And I don't want to get us too sidetracked.
Chair, do you want me to respond to that, or do you want me to reach out?
Real quick, and I do think we need to make that recommendation.
Sure. The current master planning process that's underway, there is no expansion of any of the runways, any of the fence. They do have commercial service as an appendix, which commercial service has been off and on throughout the years. So it is not an expansion of the facility at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Don?
Just, I know you're in a hurry, it seems like the whole process that's been gone through that Mark described is sort of lacking in any kind of public involvement, and a whole bunch of other shortcomings in terms of the federal environment and the state environmental policy acts that require a process, and doesn't even making a recommendation of a site, which is what this group is trying to be charged with, would have to be done only after there was enough process done to really make it make any sense, and to begin to consider the impacts that people have affected that have brought up.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the question. Does the Transportation Policy Board want to take an official action on this, which is something that has never happened before from an NPO standpoint, or do we want to send a list of concerns, all really valid concerns, of things that needs to be looked at? I'm just trying to weigh what is better for us as a region long term. And my feeling is if we took if this body took a formal stance on this, it almost eliminates Mark from being there and getting information, because he'll be there representing an organization that's already saying no, right? And so I kind of want to get what your feedback is on that, Mark. Like, what do you think is better for the region? You still being sort of around the table, or this organization saying no and maybe eliminating that possibility?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna, you all as our elected and appointed leaders, you get to decide what's best for our region. Chair, yes, whatever our participation ends up getting to be, I'm hoping they'll be reaching out soon. Yeah, it makes that a little, it certainly will be taken with a grain of salt when we as a body have taken a position, if we take a position in opposition. That said, I'll still be around the table. I'll still be providing the feedback. I'll still be doing everything I can to get the objective information to the commission as they make this decision.
Okay. Real quick, John and Jessica.
Yeah, this will be real quick. To me, the question is, does the citizens of Thurston County want this? We have every jurisdiction besides us saying no, we don't. We're here more to represent the people that live here, not some grandiose idea of what this area should be. They're the ones that are paying for everything. So, and Commissioner Edwards brought it up at the Thurston Regional Planning Council. At bare minimum, I think we should sign on at least the county letter, like all the other jurisdictions in Thurston County has, being the major MPO. And even because we are the smallest MPO in the state of Washington, we need to have a loud voice and really stand up for the citizens of Thurston County and say, no, we don't want this. They don't want this. Our jurisdictions don't want this. This is not a good fit for Thurston County at all. I'm done. Thank you.
Jessica?
I agree. And my thought is that this doesn't have to be an either or. It can be, we object, but we still want a place at the table to continue the discussion because it could become a reality and then we still need to be involved.
So Renee, and I need a recommendation after this.
Just very quickly, I went through this process in Snohomish County when the determination was made to add commercial service to Painfield. In fact, I lived at the south end of that runway. The opposition far outweighed the proponents of that proposal, and yet Snohomish County and the Puget Sound Regional Council came out in favor of adding commercial service there. And so I think some things are driven more by need and political expediency sometimes than what we all think. So if there's an opportunity to go on the record as opposing the Thurston County site, I think we should probably do it.
Okay, so then can we, I think, Mark, I think the best
Chair, you're looking for a motion at this point to either recommend that the council take a position in opposition to citing the airport, or you're looking for a motion to recommend that the council not take a position on the airport.
I think at this point, it sounds pretty clear that we want to take a position, but I think what we should do is lay out a list of all of our concerns of why, from an MPO standpoint, we are saying no, right? Which is a little bit different than saying no. Let's focus on what our role here is as Transportation Policy Board, recommending our transportation through Thurston County, and have it focused that way. Saying we are against it for against our Growth Management Act. We don't have that proper infrastructure in place, blah, 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 blah. So specifically what we are in charge of.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
If that's a motion, I'll second.
So is there a second?
Yeah, that's me. You made the motion, I seconded.
Okay. Then the discussion, Danny, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I'm just getting concerned about time for this meeting. So I'm glad there's a motion on the floor. And I think that the simple motion that we do want to take a position in opposition is great. And then, Andy, you, me, and Renee can work with Mark and Karen on getting that language together on exactly what we want to say. And I think that it can be as simple as that, and we can move on to the call for projects.
I agree. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just want to, I think the motion should mention lack of due process, because what Mark described is not a rational, reasonable process that's been gone through. And I think that ought to be mentioned.
We'll get the language right. Any other discussion?
Will you, Jessica, will you provide that to us for the next meeting so we can approve the language? Yes.
I will actually be providing language to council for their consideration at their next meeting.
Of course. Okay.
And so we can distribute the drafts to TPB members for comments, but they will likely have taken action before your next meeting, the council.
Thanks. So all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed?
You might want to do abstentions for this one, Chair.
Okay. Is there any abstentions?
Okay.
Okay, then.
I see Peter Agapi put his hand up just now,
yeah.
and I just want to check to see if he has a comment or an abstention.
Peter? Yeah, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I was going to make a comment before we took a vote, but I am going to abstain myself from voting. It is my understanding that we do planning for the future And if that is our main goal, I think we should hold off on saying anything until we know what is going to happen, and then we have this language. We're just voting on a blanket no without the reasons being stated. That does not make any sense. So this vote is premature.
Thank you for your comments. That is my concern as well. It is. It does feel like we would be putting ourselves behind the 8 ball a little bit by making a position on this at this point as a metropolitan planning organization, unless we're specifically can go to guidelines of why we're making the abstention. So I think it's that language is going to be really important. I'll let you know, Peter. The vice chairs and myself will work really hard to get that language right, to have it focused around planning, so on and so forth, and so we can maintain as much of that going forward as possible. So I'll help work with that language and hopefully meet your concerns there. So we had a motion, we had second, we had a vote. The motion carries, and then we'll work with Mark and staff to get the language right. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the members of the public who are here as well. So okay, now let's go to the call for projects, reviews, and recommendations. Turn it over to Paul.
Good morning, Transportation Policy Board. So you're gonna jump from one priority transportation project decision to another. So today, you're going to review the proposals that applicants have submitted to TRPC's 2022 call for projects process. Today, we are asking you to take action to forward a funding recommendation to the council for nearly $11.4 million in federal grants to priority projects that will have a positive impact on communities throughout Thurston County. Today, you'll be getting an overview of the proposals, and we've invited applicants to be on hand to answer any questions about those proposals. So I just want to remind you, your funding priorities with this call is safety, multimodal efficiency, system preservation, active transportation, resiliency, and planning. So I want to give you a little overview of the flow. So those blocks in yellow is my time where I want to give you an overview of each of the proposals, and there's 16 proposals that we're going to cover. I'm not going to go into any detail on the contingency proposals. And then staff will present you a funding recommendation, and that funding recommendation is to just help inform your decision today. Staff has prepared what we think is a sensible and practical funding option for your consideration. After that, we'll turn it over for your discussion. You can build off the staff recommendation, or you can choose to entirely craft one of your own by using the ranked choice voting process. That was the process that you selected last month for breaking ties and making decisions on which priority projects to fund. And then continue on to develop and approve a funding recommendation as time allows for the grant programs. Now, we took up a considerable amount of time talking about this important issue of the airport. So staff wants to be adaptive and flexible. So if we run out of time today, or you're unable to make that decision, we'll resume this discussion in December. Implications for that is that pushes the council's decision to January, which was something as staff we were hoping to avoid, to have the same seated council members making that decision, but we'll do our best to make sure that you have due process to make informed decisions about priority transportation investments in our communities. And so TRPC received a total of 21 grant proposals requesting a combined total of nearly 19.3 million. 16 proposals are seeking a funding secure grant award, and applicants have also submitted 5 proposals where they're requesting TRPC add those projects directly to the contingency list as backup projects or if additional funding becomes available in the intervening years between now and the next call for projects. So of the 9.3 million in surface transportation block grant funds that are available, nearly 70% must be allocated to projects in the urban medium area. That's that area in white, and nearly 8% each to the urban small and rural areas. There's also a total of 2,078,100 in transportation alternatives that would also be awarded with different splits for those geographic areas. So just a little refresh, the STBG grant program really is the most flexible in funding roads, highways, bridges, tunnels, just about all surface transportation project types, including capital transit and vehicles and electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Transportation alternatives is a smaller pot of funding with a little more niche use for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, historic preservation, environmental mitigation, removal of outdoor advertising, and we're programming out projects into the future. So we're looking for projects that would be obligating and starting their phases in fiscal years 25, 26, and 27. So first up is the Surface Transportation Block Grant, Urban Medium Proposals. And Chair Ryder, if I may, I'd like to go through each of these projects by the urban, but by their geographic area, and then we'll pause for questions that policy members might have about these specific proposals before we move on to the next batch, if that's okay. So we have a total of 8 proposals that we received for surface transportation block grant funds, requesting a combined total of 14.2 million. And just to remind you, for our urban medium area, we have a total of almost 6.4 million that we can program, in addition to a total of 1.4 million in flexible funds that would be available to all of our geographic areas. So we're going to start off with Intercity Transit's East Martin Way Gateway Roundabout. And you'll notice on all these slides, I have a single slide for each proposal that shows the funding request by phase, its geographic area, and the score. And the score is the number of points that the applicant scored for their proposal. And in the urban medium area, there's a total of 8 points available, and those points are awarded for 2 points each on the categories of efficient use of federal funds, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, whether the project is located in a sustainable Thurston urban corridor or neighborhood center, and lastly, its equity impact on underserved and socially vulnerable populations. So on to Intercity Transit's project. IT is requesting $1,529,320 for both the preliminary engineering and design and the right-of-way phases for the East Martin Way Gateway Roundabout project. The project will convert the existing signalized intersection of Martin Way at Deutero Road and the Meridian Road intersection. And the roundabout will anchor the eastern limits of Intercity Transit's future bus rapid transit service, providing the endpoint and a rapid turnaround needed for efficiency and convenience of the service along this route. The project will also improve pedestrian street crossings for the commercial area, as well as access to transit stops. The design phase will complete the analysis necessary for environmental permitting and right-of-way acquisition. And upon completion of these phases, this project will be construction ready and enable future high-frequency transit service the length of the Martin Way urban corridor. So next up is the City of Lacey College Street Corridor Improvements Phase 3. This is also an 8-point scoring project. This will enhance multimodal access, reduce speed, and provide enhanced pedestrian accessibility and improve overall safety along this northern portion of College Street. Lacey is requesting $4,254,500 for right-of-way acquisition that is necessary for this project. will eventually reconstruct College Street from Lacey Boulevard to 18th Avenue Southeast and into the 22nd Avenue project, adding a roundabout at 16th Avenue Southeast with enhanced pedestrian crossings. Improvements will also include widened sidewalks. So Lacey would be going from the existing 5-foot sidewalks up to 10-foot wide sidewalks with pedestrian buffers, accessible ramps, lighting, landscaped medians, auxiliary turn lanes, and streetscaping. Utility lines will be undergrounded. Lacey's project includes a letter of support from Congresswoman Strickland. And going back to IT's project previously, I just want to make note that Intercity Transit has the support of both Thurston County as a partner and City of Lacey in writing a letter of support for that project as well. City of Olympia submitted a proposal for Elliott Avenue. The project length is approximately 1,755 linear feet, extending from Bing Court to Crestline Boulevard. That's the area highlighted in purple on the slide. The city is requesting $2 million for the construction of a 6-foot wide sidewalk and curb adjacent to 6-foot wide bike lane on the north side of the street. The project will upgrade street lighting and resurface the 2 10-foot lanes of the street, replace the traffic calming, add shared lane markings to the eastbound travel lane, add stormwater swale for stormwater quality improvements between the bike lane and the travel lane, add a stormwater conveyance pipe, replace existing water line. And that water line replacement is funded separately by the city's drinking water utility. So the city is using general funds for the design phase, and the city's determined that acquiring right-of-way is not required. So the city is providing nearly $2.5 million in match to the construction of this project. City of Olympia submitted a second priority proposal for the Martin Way scoping study. Martin Way needs safety, mobility, and access improvements. The City of Olympia is requesting $750,000 to conduct the Martin Way scoping study. The study will be the first step towards implementing the vision of the forthcoming regional Martin Way corridor study. The city will identify where access control, enhanced crosswalks, stormwater improvements, landscaping, and lighting are necessary. The study will also examine the feasibility of planned roundabouts, whether to implement business access and transit lanes, and the alignment of sidewalks and enhanced bike lanes. Additionally, the study will do about 30% design that will lead to a conceptual layout, planning level cost estimates, and develop a phasing schedule. And the city is planning to do significant public outreach on this project, particularly to vulnerable communities living along this corridor. The city of Tumwater, its highest priority proposal is the construction of the X Street roundabout. This is the next step in implementing Tumwater's capital corridor plan. The design was funded through a state pedestrian bicycle program grant, and right-of-way was funded through an STBG grant awarded by TRPC in 2020. Tumwater is requesting $3.4 million to construct a new roundabout to replace an existing signalized intersection. And this project will include updated sidewalks and add bicycle lanes on the approaches, as the overall plan for Capitol Boulevard is bike lanes along the extent of it within city limits. The project improves safety for all users and eliminates serious head-on and T collisions for vehicles. Tumwater submitted a second roundabout proposal, which is its second highest priority project, also part of the city's Capitol Way corridor plan. The Dennis Street roundabout design has been funded to 60% with the state pedestrian and bicycle program grant. Tumwater is requesting $100,000 to complete that design and engineering phase, and then $1 million for the necessary right-of-way. And like the X Street roundabout, the project will upgrade sidewalks, crossings, add bicycle lanes, and reduce serious collisions at this intersection. Moving on to Thurston County. Thurston County has completed the alternatives analysis at the intersection of Yelm Highway and Spurgeon Creek Southeast. Roundabout is the county's preferred alternative. This project is the county's highest priority project for the urban medium area. Intercity Transit is a project partner, and this project will be replacing and improving bus facilities and accessibility. This intersection is part of IT's Transit Route 94. The roundabout will be designed to accommodate both current and future traffic volumes, designing for the year 2045 to ensure requirements of the growth management are met and development can continue in the area. The county is requesting $400,000 for the design and engineering phase and an additional $400,000 for right-of-way. This is our last urban medium project, Thurston County's second highest priority. It submitted a proposal for the Old Pacific Highway and Coleman Road intersection improvements. It's currently in an alternatives analysis, and the county is determining what the appropriate intersection control measures should be, such as a roundabout or a traffic signal to improve mobility, safety, and accessibility for current and future conditions. Old Pacific Highway and Coleman Road intersection improvements is requesting $400,000 to complete the design for the preferred alternative when the analysis is complete. Old Pacific Highway, in combination with the Nisqually Road Southeast, provides that northeast-southwest connection from State Route 510 to I-5. It's traveled by around 15,000 vehicles daily to this intersection. It currently is not meeting the county's adopted level of service as defined in their comprehensive plan. And many of you probably recognize this intersection if you've ever seen traffic backed up on I-5 in the northbound lane. This is the primary detour route between the Nisqually Valley and the DuPont exits. So I'm just going to pause here to see if there's any questions on these urban medium proposals before I move on to urban small.
Pete and Danny, can you stop sharing your screen so we can?
I'll do that.
Just quickly, Paul, the Martin Way project, you characterized it as a bus rapid transit endpoint, but I didn't see any indication on at least the conceptual diagram of any kind of bus rapid transit separate lane. Usually that's a separate facility. Is that just because it's at the highly conceptual stage at this point, or am I missing something there?
The project is specifically for a roundabout, but I'm going to defer to Intercity Transit staff for the rest of the facility, whether ultimately there's a consideration of a separate bus lane.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Jessica Gould with Intercity Transit. It's just currently at the design phase, but it does have a transit support facility. So it would be like a bus stop that's separated, but it's not planning for separated transit lanes at this point.
Okay. Danny?
Thanks, Paul. I was noting the points that were attributed to each project, and do you plan to get into like where points were lost on each one?
I can answer that. My plan was not to go through them individually, but if you have a specific question about a project, I can offer. I can make note of where there was a deficiency.
I don't have a question about a specific project. I'm noticing we had a lot of projects up at 8 points, and then some lost a point here and there. And it just, in terms of, the ranking system that we've created and how effective it was, how it impacted different projects. We don't have a lot of time today, so we don't need to get into it. Maybe more of an after action debrief or something, but I am curious, and I think each of the jurisdictions would want to fully understand also where points were gained or lost.
Sure, and we will be covering that as part of a separate meeting agenda to debrief with both policy board and the TAC on our process. That for these urban medium ones, some of them they didn't get the second point on the sustainable Thurston criteria. The projects for like Olympia and the county, for example, were in neighborhood centers but weren't on urban corridors. So the other 8 point projects were all projects located on urban corridors, so they maximize that 8 points.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'll also be curious when we like review how this has gone, looking at the way that we did caps over years instead of cycle by cycle, and how that positions the jurisdictions in future funding cycles.
And I'll be touching on that on the staff funding recommendation, so stay tuned.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. And
Shall I resume?
Yeah, go forward.
Okay, give me just a second here to get my screen back up. Okay, so we're now moving on to the surface STBG urban small proposals. We received 2 from Thurston County and Yelm. There was a total of 725,800 in this allocation. And of course, we could use the flexible funds to help fund these projects as well. So first up is the Thurston County Old Highway 99 at the intersection of Sargent Road and 200 First Avenue Southwest. With the construction of the new roundabout at US 12 and Sargent Road expected in early 2023, traffic volumes are expected to significantly increase at this project intersection as traffic patterns react to the new connection. The high speeds and traffic volumes on Old Highway 99 will make it difficult for drivers accessing from side streets that could result in collisions and delays. So the county is requesting $844,000 to construct a single lane roundabout at 200 First Avenue with restricted access control at Sargent Road. So drivers would be prevented from turning left from Sargent Road or left from Old Highway 99. This project will include enhanced signing, street lighting, sidewalk connections, and protected sidewalk crossings within the limits and these enhancements will improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. And I'll just make note, TRPC awarded this project $900,000 for PE and right-of-way in 2020. Next up is the City of Yelm's Roton Road Northwest. This is a commercial collector roadway in the City of Yelm. And once, like the county, pending a future connection, once phase 2 of the State Route 510, that Yelm alternate loop is constructed, Roton Road becomes an important connection from SR 510 to Yelm's Industrial and Central Business District. The current roadway of 19 feet wide lacks active transportation facilities and is inadequate for both current and future movement of traffic, freight, and people. Yelm is requesting $850,000 to complete the design and engineering phase. Yelm is requesting an additional $100,000 for the right-of-way. The project will reconstruct Roton Road to provide both motorists and active transportation improvements. Improvements will consist of 2 11-foot travel lanes, concrete curb, 5-foot bike lanes on each side, planter strips, illumination, and 5-foot wide sidewalks on both sides of the road. And the sidewalks and bike lanes will connect to phase 2 of the Yelm Loop shared use paths and to the existing Yelm Prairie Line Trail. So I'm just gonna pause here for these 2 projects to see if there's any questions before continuing on.
Any questions? Let's go forward.
Okay. So next up, we're gonna go with the STBG rural proposals. We received 4 from the Nisqually tribe, a study from Tumwater, another intersection project from Thurston County, and a repaver project from Tenino. Total 770,400 rural funds, which flexible funds could also be used in these locations. First of our rural proposals is the Nisqually Indian Tribe's Fleet Electrification and Resilient Energy Project. The tribe operates a fleet of 160 vehicles and has a community goal to decarbonize its fleet in order to reduce its dependence on petroleum products and promote community resiliency. The tribe currently has 3 electric vehicles and is planning for more with the transition towards zero emissions fleet. The tribe is requesting a total of $225,000 STBG funds to study design and construct electric vehicle charging infrastructure that will be capable of powering the tribe's EV fleet. The tribe proposes to install a 30 kilowatt solar array or larger to feed the charging and battery backup equipment, and combining a battery pack with fast charger solves many of the tribe's decarbonization challenges. The faster charging provides quick charging options for fleets like rural communities, such as shuttle vans that are transporting passengers to the health clinic or community center. And the boost chargers the tribe is interested in pursuing can provide vehicles with up to 100 miles of range within 10 minutes of charging time. City of Tenino's Old Highway 99 is a main corridor serving Tenino and provides access to other adjacent communities and major roads, including I-5 and State Route 507. The project proposes to resurface this highway that has exceeded its design life with pavement surface that is in poor condition. It's currently experiencing cracking, potholes, edge deterioration, and other defects. The proposed project will repair the existing pavement surface and extend overall pavement life. Tenino is requesting $194,160 for design and engineering and nearly $1.5 million for construction to do a plain and hot mix asphalt overlay of approximately 8,400 feet. It'll result in a 28-foot pavement width, which will be restriped with 2 travel lanes with 3-foot gravel shoulders, matching the existing cross-section. And at the new agricultural park, Tenino will restripe a center turn lane if feasible. Thurston County's Old Highway 99 and Tilley Road project is located between Tenino and Grand Mound. The intersection has 18 documented collisions over the past 5 years. 8 of these collisions involved serious injuries. Based on the results of the alternatives analysis completed in 2019, the county will install an eastbound left turn lane. The project will also include street lighting, full width shoulders, and improved stormwater collection and treatment. For this, the county is requesting $1,079,000 for the construction of these improvements. And our last STBG rural proposal is from the city of Tumwater. This is Tumwater's third priority. Tumwater proposes to work with stakeholders such as State Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and TRPC to perform an interchange improvement study for I-5 and the State Route 121 and 93rd Avenue interchange. The area surrounding the interchange is at the southern edge of the city of Tumwater's urban growth area. It has high volumes of truck traffic and is experiencing rapid residential and commercial growth, and is expected to see nearly a 20% increase in overall traffic in the next 20 to 25 years. Tumwater is requesting $250,000 to perform a study to examine safety and multimodal issues within the current interchange configuration, analyze alternatives, and recommend a preferred alternative. So I'll pause here again to see if there's any questions about these rural proposals.
Any questions? Okay.
All right, I'm going to continue on. So next up is our last batch of projects that I'm going to cover in detail. These are transportation alternatives. We only received 2 proposals from Intercity Transit and the City of Tenino. If you note on funding available, we're going to have excess transportation alternatives fund. We had a total of $980,900 in urban medium and $308,600 in rural, and there was no urban small requests. So we're clearly going to have a surplus of TA funds available to program to other projects. Let's just jump into the 2 that were submitted. First up is Intercity Transit's Walk and Roll program. This program emphasizes the benefits of active transportation for students, school staff, families, and the community. The school-focused education An outreach program helps students and families access their community through active transportation choices and helps to reduce traffic congestion in and around schools and neighborhoods. IT is requesting $660,408 to continue its program within their public transportation benefit area. The program will continue offering educational outreach at school and community events, including pedestrian and bicycle safety and education, its Safe Streets ambassadors, the traffic safety yard signs, youth bicycle education classes, IT's Earn a Bike classes, partnering with PE teachers to support bicycle education as part of PE classrooms, bike rodeos, and being a partner to the development of traffic gardens at elementary schools in the communities. Intercity Transit's proposal includes layers of support from both the Olympia School District and Safe Kids Thurston County. And then the second TA proposal from the city of Tenino is for the city of Tenino to do the design and engineering phase to extend the Thurston County Yelm Rainier Tenino Trail out to West Tenino city limits. So this project builds off the feasibility study performed by TRPC in 2018. Tenino is requesting $225,000 in transportation alternatives grant funding to complete the design and engineering phase for segments 3 and 4. That's shown in the orange and green area on the slide. This project would extend a shared use trail from the western terminus at Tenino City Park out to West Tenino city limits and along Old Highway 99. The trail will provide a link between the existing trail network and future residential and commercial development along Old Highway 99, including the new regional agricultural business and innovation park. So I'm going to stop here to see if there's any questions about the TA proposals before I continue on and lower my shade.
Any questions? Seeing none. You can go forward with a staff recommendation.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Get back to Zoom, which disappeared from me. Okay. And I just want to highlight, we did receive 5 contingency proposals, 2 from TRPC, 1 from Lacey, a proposal from Olympia and Tenino. I'm requesting a total of $4.5 million. These proposals are shown in detail online. The applicants are just requesting that these projects go straight to the contingency list. So now I'm going to move on to the staff funding recommendation. And before I do this, I just want to share that all of the proposals are great proposals. I believe that the applicants submitted proposals that align with TRPC's funding priorities. The Technical Advisory Committee reviewed all these proposals last month and didn't find any substantive issues to present to you today. So all of these proposals are eligible for the grant programs they're seeking funding from. And so today, I just want to give you a staff funding recommendation for your consideration. And I want to share with you the consideration of the characteristics that we considered in formulating our funding recommendation. And so first is how well did the project score with the regional criteria? So we gave top consideration to the highest scoring proposals within each grant program and geographic area. We also made note of the applicants, as noted on their application, what are their highest priority projects and giving consideration to those higher priority proposals. Also considering, has TRPC made past investments in these proposals and previous calls for projects? So has TRPC awarded funding to PE or right-of-way phases, bringing these projects closer to a shovel-ready status for construction? And also maximizing funding by geographic area. We want to mix and maximize all of the transportation alternatives and STBG funds possible to issue full awards. And in preparation for that, we asked applicants if they could accept transportation alternatives funding in lieu of STBG and how much they could. In addition, knowing that the demand for funding exceeds what we have available to award, we also asked applicants how much they could reduce, what would be an acceptable reduced award that they could accept and still maintain a viable project. And then staff, we looked at, because there's multiple competitive projects, we focused on awarding only one project phase. So if applicants submitted multi-phase projects, we focused on funding just one phase, especially if it was starting out with PE, because PE really isn't known until a project is at least at 60% design. So we thought it would be best to not award right-of-way funding if the project has not yet fully identified what the right-of-way needs are for that project. So I'm going to walk you through our staff recommendation, and it is a bit of a puzzle. I'm going to start with transportation alternatives. As I explained earlier, there's only 2 projects. We're going to have a net surplus of funds that can be awarded. Then I'll continue on through STBG Rural, Urban Small, and Urban Medium. And by walking through this staff recommendation, I hope it'll help you appreciate the complexity of what's involved with matching the right funds with the project needs. And so starting with transportation alternatives, I just want to orient you to all the subsequent slides for the recommendation will look like this. It's a table where across the top we have the applicant, the proposal, the project score, and then these are the various phases for the applicant's requests and their total request. And then each of the grant programs in geographic area. So this is the total amount available for each of the grant programs, and then the balance of those programs as a result of the staff funding recommendation. What has a strike through on the funding source means that that is a funding source that's not eligible for the proposal, either by geographic area or the project's eligibility, or just what makes sense to fund. So in this instance, with the transportation alternatives, staff is recommending to fully fund Intercity Transit's Walk and Roll program with the Urban Medium Transportation Alternatives Fund, and fully funding the City of Tenino's trail design and engineering phase with the Rural Transportation Alternatives Grant. And so that results in a total award of $865,408 in awards. That still leaves $1,109,092 in TA funds that we could award to other projects. So as I move on to the next slide, you'll see that the amount of revenue available is going to diminish as a reflection of what was awarded with TA. So one thing I just want to point out right away with the STBG Rural, that's a bit of a conundrum, but it's not at all a real problem, is that there is $83,600 in transportation alternatives rural funds that we're just not going to be able to program based on the request. So at this point, we're not asking you to make a decision on that as of yet. We just want to let that sit and probably roll that into our next call for projects, or perhaps use that for contingency funds. But I just wanted to point that out. So for the STBG rural allocation, TRPC received 4 proposals. The 2 highest scoring proposals scored 4 points, so those were the top 2 considerations. And since there's only $770,400 in STBG rural, staff is recommending awarding all the STBG rural funds to Thurston County for the construction phase of Old Highway 99 and Tilly intersection improvements. So staff is recognizing that Tumwater also scored 4 points with its I-5, SR121, and 93rd Avenue study, but it's also Tumwater's 93rd, it's their 3rd ranked priority. So we know that Tumwater's highest priority proposals in urban medium, we wanted to give emphasis to Tumwater's highest priority proposal. So in this scenario, we chose not to award Tumwater $250,000 for the study, because that would need to either come from the STBG rural or the flexible. And that would just make less funding available, considering that we wanted to emphasize Tumwater's priority project that you will see in subsequent slide. So while both Tenino and Nisqually submitted excellent proposals, they scored below the Thurston County and Tumwater proposals. And Nisqually also has submitted this proposal to Washington State Commerce for a grant. But we are recommending that both all three of the projects for the I-5, Tumwater's I-5 SR 121 93rd Avenue project, the Tribe's Fleet Electrification project, and the Old Highway 99 repaving project all be added to TRPC's contingency list. So combining the STBG flexible funds and the STBG rural to fully fund Thurston County's project, that is a maximum of award there, which zeroes out our STBG rural funds, our allocation. So moving on to STBG rural, there are two urban STBG proposals. Both projects scored the maximum 6 points. The Thurston County Old Highway 99 at Sargent and 201st Avenue and Yelms-Raton Road. In 2020, TRPC awarded Thurston County $900,000 for PE and right-of-way. For 2022, with council's approval, the county is requesting that the $600,000 rural community support program set aside approved by the council in October that comes from the STBG flexible funds be awarded to the county's Old Highway 99 Sargent project. The county also indicated that they could accept up to $200,000 in TA funding, and due to no TA urban small application submissions, staff is recommending awarding $199,300 in combined TA urban small and TA flex to the county's proposal, an additional $64,700 in STBG flex funds to fully fund the county's request. For Yelms-Raton Road engineering and design phase, staff is recommending it the entire estimated $725,800 in STBG urban small allocation. Yelm states it could accept up to $104,550 in TA urban small funds for those eligible bicycle, pedestrian, and street lighting design elements. This would zero out the urban small TA allocation. So staff is then recommending an additional $19,650 in STBG flexible to fully fund Yelm's PE phase. And so staff is recommending that right-of-way be put on the contingency list, as Yelm is uncertain as to exactly what its right-of-way costs would be. So this is a total of $1,714,000 in STBG funds to fully fund the two urban small proposals. So lastly, moving on to the STBG urban medium proposals, we received four 8-point projects: Intercity Transit's East Martin Way Gateway roundabout proposal, Lacey's College Street Corridor Phase 3 improvements, Tumwater's Dennis Street roundabout, and Tumwater's X Street roundabout. We're not showing the other four proposals as they scored below 8 points. So these proposals have a combined request of $10,283,820. And since Dennis Street roundabout is Tumwater's second highest priority, staff chose to omit that from a secure grant, and considering X Street roundabout as Tumwater's highest priority, and that TRPC has previously funded the right-of-way phase with STBG funds in 2020, staff is recommending awarding Tumwater a total of $2,941,000 in combined funding for the construction phase to complete this project, And Tumwater staff stated they could accept a reduced award and cover its match requirement. So TRPC is recommending awarding $2,620,508 in STBG urban medium for the construction phase, and making up that difference with transportation alternatives urban medium of $320,492, which zeroes out the balance for that TA allocation. TRPC previously awarded Lacey's College Street Corridor Phase 3 project PE in 2018, and Lacey's currently at 60% design and expects to complete right-of-way next year. The PE phase next year. So PE would be completed well before Lacey would be able to obligate these funds. So staff is recommending awarding Lacey a total of $3,941,742 in a combination of TA Flex and STBG Urban Medium funds for Lacey's right-of-way phase. And so with that, I'll just point out that, well, I'm going to skip this. I'll come back to this part about funding caps. So since intercity transit would be the third funded project on this, and since intercity transit's right-of-way phase costs are not finalized, and just funding one phase, a single phase, was part of our staff consideration, staff is recommending funding 100% of IT's PE phase using all STBG funds, as that's an easier pathway for intercity transit. So staff's recommending awarding IT $735,250 for that PE phase. And this would zero out the balance on the STBG urban medium and flexible allocation. So what you see here on the slide is all the funding now is zeroed out with these awards. But we still have that $83,600 transportation alternatives. And so our recommendation is funding X Street Roundabout, Lacey, College Street Corridor Phase 3, and awarding intercity transit Gateway PE phase and adding that right-of-way phase to the contingency list, which results in $7,617,992. And so in summary here, this is, let me just say, here's the unfunded proposals. So we received 3 7-point proposals, 1 6-point proposal from Olympia and Thurston County. Staff is recommending adding all of these proposals to TRPC's contingency list if funding becomes available. Okay, now for the grand total. So here's our staff recommended awards by applicant. At the top are the applicants, the total number of proposals that they've submitted, and then the awards by geographic area. So we received a total of 16 priority proposals. Our staff recommendation recommends funding 8 of those. So just to explain who receives funding, intercity transit is awarded for $660,408 TA funds for the urban medium walk and roll program, $735,250 for the PE phase of the Martin Way roundabout, Eastgate roundabout, for a total of nearly $1.4 million. Lacey submitted 1 priority proposal, its right-of-way phase for the College Street corridor improvements, $3,941,742. Tenino with the rural TA grant for the design and engineering phase of the trail extension from Tenino Park out to West Tenino city limits. For Thurston County, funding the old Highway 99 Tilly intersection improvements for $1,079,000 and $864,000 to its Sergeant Road 201st Avenue roundabout project for a total of $1,943,000. And I just want to point out, of that award, $600,000 is funding for the Rural Community Support Program, by which the county will in turn make a share of local funds available for Rural Community Support Program applicants. And Tumwater funding the construction phase of the X Street roundabout with STBG for $2,941,000 in STBG and TA funds. And lastly, Yelms PE phase for the Roton Road Northwest Improvements project, which results in a combined total of $11,296,400. And so I think looking at this, you can see that Nisqually and City of Olympia did not receive any awards. But I want to highlight that I think what this slide also conveys with the staff recommendation is our call for projects had a policy basis for awarding top scoring proposals, and also with the omission of the single funding cycle funding cap, the process enabled larger projects to be funded. And so Vice Chair Madrone asked about funding caps and how that plays into this. And our funding caps was over 3 consecutive call for projects processes. Applicants in the urban medium area could not receive an award more than 33% of 2 of the funding cycle program. So for example, in 2022 and the 2024 funding cycles, an applicant could not exceed 33% of that, which happened to be $4,254,400, which is what Lacey requested. And City of Lacey comes close, within just a little under around $300,000 plus of that funding cap. So the implications for this is that Lacey would be much less competitive in 2024 and 2026 for projects, and likely wouldn't be coming back until 2028 for another call for projects, which would make it easier for other applicants to compete for funding in those future funding cycles. So I am going to stop sharing here and see if there's any questions about our staff recommendation.
No, I think you guys just did an amazing job. And can you also remind us that the TAC has looked at all this as well, and is feeling good about these recommendations?
Yeah, the staff performed a peer review, a very collegial review of the proposals. I'll just note there was a couple minor issues with Tenino on the contingency proposal. They suggested possibly looking at a chip seal project rather than a repaver for cost savings. And for the Nisqually Tribe's proposal, the Nisqually Tribe did not identify a certification acceptance agency that would serve as the project sponsor. However, TRPC staff has worked with the tribe and has coordinated with BIA and has talked with WashDOT that we think we have a path forward if the council selects the Nisqually's fleet electrification project, that there's a means for the tribe to transfer FHWA funds to Bureau of Indian Affairs, so then BIA could effectively serve as the tribe's project sponsor on that. And that was pretty much it for major TAC issues.
And so the thought process is in the next funding cycle, since Olympia is not receiving funding this time around, that they will have a much larger chance of getting a bigger project funded next time around.
Considering what our evaluation criteria on the proposals that Olympia receives, yes, Lacey would be one less contender for Olympia on our STBG urban medium allocation.
Well then, let's see how this goes. I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendations for the STBG and the TA funding as presented.
Mayor Ryder, I apologize. I just want to, for interrupting. I do also want to share that yesterday we did email out public comments. We did receive one set of public comments from Karen Mesmer that provided some constructive feedback on our application process, but also noted some comments on a handful of specific projects, including some funding recommendations. So I just want to, for the record, state that.
Actually, I want to amend my recommendation. There's also been some talk about making sure that all the jurisdictions are coordinating and working with other jurisdictions upon when this funding goes out. Is that a part of the staff recommendation as well, or does that need to be added?
Yeah, so Mark and I have talked about this, and our plan is for all award letters to include language that it is TRPC's expectation that project sponsors coordinate with transit, utilities, first responders, school districts, and other stakeholders as appropriate for coordinating their all phases of their project.
And that isn't something that necessarily needs to be in your action. We're going to be providing that in all of the award letters.
Okay. Well, that is, we haven't provided that before, so that is something that I think needs to be on record.
Okay.
Here, Pete.
Actually, I'd like to defer to Councilmember Madrone first, since
Okay, sorry.
Probably has a bigger stake, and then come back.
Okay, Danny.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. You know, just thinking about the funding caps over multiple cycles and us talking about us evaluating our criteria and did it work well. I really hope we safeguard those funding caps over multiple cycles to make sure that the intent of those remains throughout the years. So just for equity among the jurisdictions. I also just want to kind of point a process. I'm a little confused because we had a whole conversation in the last meeting, and we did some planning around doing a ranked choice voting process. Should there be a tie? But now it looks like we're voting on a staff recommendation, and I'm just kind of confused as to the process at this point.
I'll take that. So when we talked about the tie breaking, that was before we really had the results. And so once we had the results and we look at the constraints in terms of the urban medium, urban small, rural categories, it worked out very well to have a staff recommendation. We are prepared to do the ranked choice voting if TPB wants to go wants to explore not accepting the staff recommendation, but really this was a point of expediency because there are, as you might have gathered from Paul's presentation, there are a lot of moving parts in terms of fitting dollars to projects with these different categories of urban, medium, small, rural, and also with the different funds of STBG, transportation alternatives, and flexible funds of both of those colors. So it is a lot to thread the needle to get these funds programmed out on projects.
I can totally appreciate that. I'll just say that as the vice chair of the committee that's been a part of many conversations up until now, I am surprised. And I just was not aware that this was, going to be how we were going to do it. But I can appreciate the need for expediency. And I do respect all the work that staff has put into it. I'm just surprised.
The next up is, go ahead, Pete, and then we'll go to Jessica and John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd just like to thank staff for the recommendation. I was trying to figure out how we were going to get out of this, and I think the recommendation helps a lot. I guess just two concerns I have here. One is we're putting a lot of money into right-of-way acquisition, you, Lacey, in particular, and I know that we had a great deal of difficulty trying to acquire right-of-way for the Trosper Capital project, and so I hope that can actually happen and that money can actually be spent. But the other comment is I saw, and I don't believe they're funded, but on a couple of these projects, particularly the rural ones, it didn't look to me like bike lanes were part of the proposal, and I'm concerned. I mean, I think these rural roads, we need to take the opportunity when we repave them to add bike lanes. So I guess I hope that in the future, as projects are looked at, that's an important element that's added to that. And I guess the last comment I'll make is I'm a little disappointed on the tribal thing, but I think I would have liked to have seen some money allocated there, but I think there's going to be ample opportunities and other avenues to fund electrification facilities, and so I can understand why that's not being funded, and I'm okay with that. So I guess if your motion is still standing, Mr. Chair, I will second your motion to approve staff recommendation.
Yeah, there's a motion second. We're now into discussion. Paul, can you address Pete's question about bicycle lanes and what the
I'll try, and then I'll defer to Thurston County as it's specifically their projects. The old Highway 99, that does have a wide shoulder, and often in our rural areas, wide shoulders are acting as both bicycle and pedestrian facilities, because for Thurston County, having bike lanes on rural collectors is not part of their design standard. But I'll defer to Matt on that, if you want to speak to the issue as well.
Sure, I think it's a great comment. So on the old Highway 99 and Tilly Road project, which is our rural submittal, we are doing a center turn lane, 11-foot through lanes, and then we're also doing a 5-foot shoulder. So it's more than wide enough for bicyclists and pedestrians. I think the question is more directed at the city of Tenino, where they're doing the repaver going into the city, and I believe they said they had a 28-foot wide pavement width, which doesn't necessarily provide for the full 5-foot shoulders. I don't know if there's anybody from Tenino on the call.
Okay.
Thanks for that information, Matt. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Jessica?
Thanks, Pete. I had the same question, so that's good. Another thing I would ask is that next time we go through this, it would be really helpful for me, especially being newer, to see the history of who we funded last time. I won't necessarily remember each project, so that can help with the equity question as well.
I agree. It's always good that we have, and we've always done a pretty good job about this, especially with TAC, understanding what projects have been funded in prior phases and making sure that there is, a solid record there. So we're making solid recommendations. I do think it's also, important that as we've gone through this first one, we've seen, every recommendation did score 8 out of 8. They're all 8 out of 8s. And so there is, I think that has set some good precedent here as well, that, we are funding projects that have scored the highest, which is not something we've ever done in the past. We've done this equal allocation now, but by doing the caps, we are allowing for bigger projects to go forward too. But as Danny pointed out, it's important that we stay with that. We don't just all of a sudden change, and then that throws off the whole equity thing for the next 2 cycles. So I definitely think as maybe a part of our recommendation that, we carry this through for the 2 more cycles, so that that's not changed in the future, because that would be unfair. I believe that would be unfair for sure. Anyway, John?
Yeah, this is just a point of clarification for the 99 project. That, to me, that's really important. And the reason for it is when Tenino got possession of that was during when Lemon Hills and all that became part of Tenino through annexation. Part of the deal was we take that part of the road, which is a little bit more than a mile, I believe. That road hadn't been worked on before, for years, before we actually had to take possession of it. And it hasn't been worked on since. We're looking at well over 20 years. And that's why that road now is starting to have all the potholes and the cracks and all that kind of stuff in it. And as Tenino, we don't have the kind of population base to pull in real monies. So that project is going to be on a contingency list. Exactly what is that going to mean for Tenino?
Yeah, so I can respond to that. But first, I want to get back to the rural question that Pete Komet brought up, because I wasn't thinking of Tenino's project. But for Old Highway 99, Tenino is proposing a shared use path that would be immediately parallel to that route. So that would actually provide a safe, dedicated space separate from the road if that's to be awarded and eventually be constructed. John, in response to the contingency list, it would be TRPC selects projects based on the amount of funding that's available, and that if we get additional obligation authority, or if there's redistributed funds from states that did not meet their obligation targets, we need to be ready to, we need to be ready to act. And so in that case, we would reach out to all the applicants, including Tenino, and say, hey, could you get your PE funding obligated this year if we were to award you your PE phase? And so that's how we would respond to it.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood it that way as well, because this is stuff that I've got to report back to my council. I want to make sure, I want them to understand that just because we're not getting it right now does not mean that we're not really going to get it. It's still a good possibility. That road is in terrible shape and it's degrading quickly. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks. So Pete, I still see your hand up. Is it still up from before, or?
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. There is a motion and a second to adopt the staff's recommendation for the Surface Transportation Block Grant SPG funding and the 2 transportation alternative applicants funding as well. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor of that motion, can you please say aye or raise your hand?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, it sounds like that motion unanimously passes. Thank you so much, Paul and your staff. This is always such a difficult situation. I've gone through a lot of these, and it's always comes down to this math question, right? At the end of the day, it becomes a math question. They're always good projects. It's like, how do we fit our funding from the different sources to make sure we can have great projects going forward in Thurston County? And the thing I think we learned this time is we have information behind us that is also showing that these are the highest rated projects in Thurston County. And like I said in the past, that 8 out of 8 is not something we've ever been able to turn to before. So I do think we have learned something along this way. I do think we need to continue to tweak it. And I do think going forward, I think there almost needs to be one more step in this process of getting to ranked choice, getting to make sure the council agrees that the 8 out of 8s are the 8 out of 8s and have some information behind that, which I think will meet what Danny's talking about, right? Because we didn't see that. We didn't see the information behind how it got to 8 out of 8. And I know we're restricted by time, but that is something I think we need to figure out going forward a little bit. So there is a little more input back between the Transportation Policy Board, between where the applications come through, then goes through TAC. I think that should come to us at some point to make sure we confirm all this. And then it goes to a final recommendation for funding. So that would be a little bit of a tweak, but I think it would satisfy Danny's concern, and I understand where a lot of us are also coming from, is to confirm how we got the different fund, how we got to 8 out of 8 and have a concurrence from the policy board, and then go to one more step. So I don't know how
I think we squeezed you this time around to meet the end of the year council meeting. I think we need to make room in our next funding cycle to give you one more meeting to fully process the review part of application, to process that information and feel that you have a grasp of it. And what we can do for our debrief meeting with you on a process is we can kind of do a little walkthrough on that scoring, so you have a better sense of it.
Great. Well, thank you. And we really do appreciate it. We know how difficult I remember meetings where we're trying to do math day of and try and move money around day of, and that is that is really, really difficult to do. So we appreciate this staff recommendation. And like I said, I do think this is a continued learning process. Get feedback from the TAC. I think next time have one more little step in there for us, and I think we're on a good path. And
thank you.
That, let's just check in real quick on our last agenda item. Do you have anything outside committee reports or member reports? Is there anyone?
Get a first and a second on the floor. We haven't taken a vote.
No, we did. It passed unanimously.
We did, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, we did. So I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's early. Still feels early to me.
It's late for me.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm working on 16 hours now.
Yep. So anything for outside committee reports? Anything? No. Okay. Then with that, without objection, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Non-debatable motion.
Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you, John.
See you.